Welcome back to Advancing with Amy. Today, we're talking with Ben Gonshor. He's an award-winning writer, actor, musician, and entrepreneur. His play, When Blood Ran Red, which tells of a true-life, dramatic moment in the life of the great American actor, singer, activist, Paul Robeson, won the David and Claire Rosen Memorial International Play Contest at the National Yiddish Theater in New York. He holds an MFA in motion picture producing from the School of Cinematic Arts at the University of Southern California, and in his spare time, he owns and operates Fluids IQ, Canada's wellness laboratory. And on top of all that, he's written a wonderful book that I've been reading called the Book of Izzy, and I am so excited to have him here today. Welcome, Ben.
Good to be here.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about this book that you've written.
So as you said, it's called The Book of Izzy, and it's about a guy who's reached a dead end in pretty much all facets of his life, professionally, romantically, creatively. And, he's somebody who lives with mental illness, and he decides that he's going to change things up, and he decides to go off his medications just to see if life could be better. And he's presented an opportunity to take part in an amateur Yiddish theater production of one of the great plays in Yiddish theater called The Dybbuk. And given that he's at a dead end and he's got nothing else going, he agrees to do it. And he goes on this journey where he really begins to find the purpose and meaning in his life. And along that journey, he hallucinates that he sees this bird that nobody else sees. And he wonders if it's part of the withdrawal from the medication. And one of the things we learn in the book is whether that's true and what happens when, in fact, he does confront the bird, which I won't share because we want people to read it, right?
Yes, don't tell me the end because I haven't got there quite yet.
Okay, good.
But I am in love with the characters. They are so realistic, and I love the way you describe his mental health and how he goes through certain things. You can feel what he's going through. So does that come from personal experience?
It does. One of the things people always ask artists when they create their work is how much of themselves is in the art, whether it's writing, painting, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I don't know that any artist is totally disassociated from their work. I don't know how that's possible. The work lives within us before it comes out into the public. So, speaking for myself, obviously, there's a lot of my personal experience that I brought to writing the book. But at the end of the day, as I tell people, it is a work of fiction. And, to make it such, you need to take dramatic license with things that very much are not real, right? Are not part of your own experience, because that's what you have to do as part of the creative process. You have to go that extra step to heighten the drama. And that's what I did. But to answer your question, yes, there is a lot of my personal experience that informed the writing of the book.
Well, it's great. And I love the drama, as you mentioned. It is full of that. And I love the, how would I describe it? The flavor of the book is very exciting and has some episodes or scenes in it that are very, what is the word? Sensational.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Thank you. People describe it as cinematic.
Yes.
Um, I appreciate that. I do have a background, an educational background in film and TV. As you mentioned in my resume, I spent some years in California studying film and TV and learning how to write screenplays. I brought some of that education, some of that knowledge into imagining the scenes that take place within the narrative. Yeah, I think what you mean by sensational, other people refer to as cinematic or theatrical.
Yes. Yes. So I'm curious, when you say part of it is from your life experience, do you have a mental health history, or is that part of your life?
Yeah, I live with depression and anxiety. It's part of my mental health makeup. And one of the things that I wanted to explore in the book, you know, I mentioned that Izzy hallucinates that he sees a bird, right? Your average well person, and I'm saying well in quotes, right? Because I don't know that any of us are ever completely well, but your average person does not hallucinate, right?
Right,
That they're seeing things. And so I asked myself, okay, what's the rationale that I can give for Izzy hallucinating? And so I imagine that one of the things he can be going through is a mental health journey, crisis, adventure, where part of that is losing your mind a little bit. And that would explain his hallucinating, why he sees something in the story that's taking place that other people don't. So that explains my exploration. Is he, coming off medication and therefore losing a bit of his mind in the process? And one of the things I wanted to explore, which I did not want to do in writing nonfiction or memoir, because I think that's all over the marketplace now. But one thing I wanted to explore was the experience of being on psychotropic medication and being off psychotropic medication, going on and off those medications, which one has to do if you're being treated and being observed by a professional. Because the reality of the case is we don't really know what medications work until they work,
right.
right? And so, from my own personal experience, I knew what that was like. And I felt that it hadn't really, I at least had not seen it explored in a fictional way, what one goes through being on and off medication. And so that's the personal piece that I brought to writing the book. As I said, I didn't want to write self help. So I don't know if I succeeded in integrating it nicely into the narrative without calling too much attention to itself and pulling people out of the experience of the narrative. I hope that I succeeded.
Oh, I think you did. And I love that you hit the nail on the head with the psychotropic experience. Speaking as someone that has bipolar disorder, I've had to have those meds. And when you go on them, there's issues. And when you go off them, there are issues. And you nailed it on the head.
Thank you. I One of the things I wanted to happen with the book, if I succeeded in getting it published, was to be able to have conversations like this, right? For the book to serve as a catalyst towards conversation. I think it's great that we're living at a time now where mental health, the stigma of mental health is lessening. I don't think it's completely gone. I don't know that it will ever be gone, but certainly it is front and center in so many ways that it hasn't been. Thanks in part, a lot to celebrities, people with a following who can get on the front page of a newspaper, a magazine, what have you, and they have that kind of influence, which is great. So I wanted, okay, I'm not one of those people. Uh, but nevertheless, I wanted, and my hope for the book is that as it begins to come out into the world, which it is now, but it was only just released, that it finds that audience, right? The book has, I think, various audiences who would find it interesting. There are the people who are interested in the performing arts because Izzy gets involved in theater. There's people interested in Yiddish culture, specifically Yiddish theater, and then people interested in what we're talking about at the moment, the mental health piece. And so I'm hoping that as the book comes out and it goes on its journey in the marketplace, out in the public, that it reaches people who are experiencing what we're talking about, what we're going to talk about today, and it allows conversations to happen about specifically about the experience of, you know, the psychotropic medication experience, but not just that. It can be mental health in general.
It goes, oh, sorry. It
That's okay.
goes into the effect it has on his family and friends as well, and how they interact with him. And that's fascinating as well, because that is a big piece is your support system when you have any kind of mental health diagnoses. Your
Mhm.
support system is so important, and he definitely is working that area in the book.
Yeah, yeah, he is. You know, in Izzy's case, and again, I'm not a doctor, not a healthcare professional. You know, I'm just someone with the experience. You know, in Izzy's case, and I think in most cases, the experience of mental health is a genetic one, right? It tends not to be an isolated thing. And in Izzy's case, his mother is someone who, or at least the mother side of his family, is where this came from, right? So he has that relationship with his mother, a very close one, because they're both living with it, right? And thankfully, they can talk to each other about it, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to create conflict in that area of the story. I didn't think it needed that to tell the story properly. And I think one of the nice things in Izzy's life is that those close to him love him and accept him for who he is, right? They're not the ones stigmatizing him. Yeah, he has some challenges in his work environment, which is a family business, and they love him and are sensitive to what he goes through. But, you know, there's a reality that he needs to keep things together in order to keep his job, right? And which is fine because that's life, right? That's reality. But they want to help, you know,
Right,
they want to help. And one of the things that Izzy struggles with, which we all do, is we're so much in our heads living with the illness that even when people want to help, right, it's not so easy to either ask for it or to accept it,
right,
right? Because we spend so much time saying that nobody really gets it, or how can people possibly help? This is so overwhelming, right? Only I understand this. And I think that's something that we live with in society. And unfortunately, you know, it results in really serious outcomes, detrimental outcomes, when people feel like nobody understands, like nobody gets it. You know, in my own experience, one of the things that I feel saved my life in my own journey was when a healthcare professional I worked with, I felt got me, you
yeah,
know,
that matters.
understood where I lived. And as a result of that, I was able to heal and get better. But that took some time. You know, not every healthcare professional gets it.
Right,
But I think one of the nice things we're also experiencing is because of the prevalence of mental health and it becoming much more front and center in society. I think healthcare professionals are also learning how to deal with it differently than they did in the past, to
I agree.
destigmatize it and to recognize that one size doesn't fit all, one pill doesn't fit all. We're all individuals. And you know, one of the challenges with mental illnesses is that they are so unique to the individual, right? Even though we call it depression, even though we call it anxiety, even though we call it bipolar, each person's experience of that illness is unique to them.
Yes.
And the professionals have to be really, really good at not only diagnosing, but at dealing with that individual's experience of the illness.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's sort of what's happening to Izzy.
Oh, definitely. And I liked the scene, I say scene like it was a movie, but the
Right.
chapter where his mom and is it Fagin?
Yeah, Fagin.
Yes,
Her
where
friend
his
Fagin.
mom and Fagin come over and his house is a disaster and she starts cleaning and I just thought, okay, that's someone who truly understands depression that's writing this because when Izzy says, I just can't, I don't have it in
Right.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. They say write what you know. I did. I don't know that somebody who's never gone through it could write those things. I mean, sure, they can research it well and do it, but I think it really takes knowing what it's about to to describe that experience.
yes,
And yeah, the experience when you're in the depths of it, right? As anybody who has been in the depths of it knows, you just can't do anything.
right. It's
Can't do anything. The garbage piles up, the laundry piles up, the shopping doesn't get done. It just nothing happens. And yeah, Izzy's mom and her best friend come to the apartment, and his mom freaks out because she's seeing visually what's happening to him internally,
right,
right? And as the mother who can't do anything, right? She just collapses and immediately starts cleaning because that's the only thing she can do to help. You know, a nice big hug isn't going to do it, isn't going to do it. But he's lucky he has that.
oh, definitely. Well, it was beautifully written. I just read that and thought, oh, I've been there and I felt that. And it just totally resonated with me.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah. So are there going to be any books after this about Izzy?
It's a really good question. I don't know that his adventures are over, but I was kind of hoping to see what the reaction to the book would be like before I delved into anything else, simply because, you know, if people didn't like it, there'd be no reason to continue writing about him,
Right.
right? So that's the first thing. I wanted to see what the response would be because, Izzy's a very vivid character. He says what's on his mind.
Yes.
There's no filter there, and it can rub people the wrong way. Thankfully, so far, and again, the book just came out, but thankfully, so far, the response has been great. People really are enjoying hearing him speak, right?
Yes.
So that's good. So I have some ideas where I might want to go with him next, but one of the challenges in writing when it's not your full-time job is writing when it's not your full-time job.
I can
It's
imagine.
yeah, a novel is not a small thing. And it took me 5.5 years to write when very often I just didn't want to after spending all day looking at a computer, having to force myself in the evening to open up the computer again for another 3 hours when your eyes are just shot.
Right.
So that's something I have to think about, right? I have to think about that. I'm not going to call it a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice, but that commitment
Mm-hmm.
to doing it again. I sort of brood over ideas. It takes forever for them to coalesce in my mind. And when I see a blank page on a computer screen, I don't see that as a fun challenge. I see that as a daunting Mount Everest to climb.
Yes.
So, even when writing the book, when I would finish a chapter and then I'd see another blank page, I'd be like, oh my God, I got to do this again. Then I got to do this again. And then I got to do it again. So, all that being said, I have to overcome that part of me, but also accept that that's just my creative process,
Right.
right? I find it incredibly challenging. It makes me incredibly insecure. I don't think I'm particularly good at it. I feel, at times like maybe all I had was this one book in me and I don't have another one. I wish I was brimming and oozing overconfidence that I could do this a zillion times, but that's just not my makeup.
Right. Well, I hope everybody convinces you that this is a good one
I hope
because
so.
it
Yeah.
definitely brings you into it. It's the kind of book that you're drawn in and you forget that you're reading, and then you go, oh, there's life out here. Oh, yeah.
That's that means a lot. And and that would, that's always our hope as artists, right? That it resonates. Like I said, I very much wanted people to experience the book and for it to resonate in different ways. I want to hear from people for whom mental health is a part of their life and whether the book informed anything for them or illuminated anything for them. Just like I want people who are interested in the performing arts to say, wow, I had no idea there was Yiddish theater.
And I had no idea there was Yiddish theater, and I love the performing arts. I was a vocal performance major and theater minor in college until
Oh,
I
wow.
changed and went to social work, but I
Okay.
started out that way.
Wow. Okay, great. So that part of the book is resonating with you
Oh,
too.
yeah, definitely.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad
So
to hear it.
so if I gotta tell you, my daughter, when she's older, she's 14 now, but when she's older, I'll give her the book to read because she's a big theater buff too.
That's great. Yeah, I've had some people who, had their kids open up the book and on the first page read the first few lines and went, "Oh, it's that kind of," and then immediately closed it. Because
Yeah,
Izzy speaks very colorfully. He again, it's one of those things I wanted to explore when you're going off medication is, and I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but I wanted to explore the experience of losing some of that filter between your thoughts and what comes out of your mouth, right?
right. And he sometimes doesn't know that his internal dialogue is not internal.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
great.
So he speaks his mind, and oftentimes he speaks colorfully, but hopefully people will not be insulted by that or offended.
I wasn't. It
Right.
was very interesting. So I've really enjoyed talking with you, Ben. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with today?
There isn't. I just hope people will be piqued by our conversation and such that they'll want to go out and find the book online. It's available online, various places, on my website, and that we just have a conversation. We continue to have conversations about
Great.
what we live with, continue to destigmatize and to build people up as opposed to tearing them down for what is living with something not by choice.
Right. Well, I will be linking to your website. Can you buy the book on your website?
Yeah. Well, you
Okay,
can't
so
buy it on my website, but you can find it on my website, which links to where you can buy it.
oh, wonderful. I'll put all that in the show notes for everybody.
Great. Thank you. Amy, I'm really grateful, and I hope you continue to enjoy the read.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure I will. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. You take care, Amy. All the best.
Thank you. You too, Ben. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Make sure to check out the Book of Izzy and let me know what you think of it. All right. And then please remember to subscribe to this show and share with your friends and family. Keep on advancing, warriors.